Welcome to the Next Level Income Show, where it's our goal to raise your income, your investments, and your life to the next level. I'm your host, Chris Larson. You can get a free copy of our book at nextlevelincome.com. Just click on the book link. Also, check out our Invest link. If you're an accredited investor, you can learn how to gain access to our new self-storage fund, as well as other institutional quality real estate opportunities. On today's show, you're not going to want to miss Neil Twa. Neil has figured out how to optimize, automate, and then even let you outsource building your own Amazon business and brand so you can make over 6 figures a year and ultimately sell it. On today's show, we have Neil Twa. Since 2012, Neil Twa has been launching, operating, and growing private label businesses on Amazon FBA. He's a co-founder of Voltage Digital Marketing, an Amazon growth consultancy, and co-founder of a software called 6leaf that helps sellers launch brands. And since 2016, he and his partners have helped thousands of students launch and grow their own private label brands, many of whom have gone on to create amazing 6, 7, and even 8-figure businesses. Together, they sold over $100 million in physical products across the Amazon channel. Today, he's focused on launching, operating, and accessing e-commerce brands with a continued focus on Amazon FBA and multi-channel marketing. Today's show is sponsored by Money Insights and their investment optimizer strategy. In my book, I share how I use the same strategy starting over a decade ago to invest my money in 2 places at one time. This strategy has been used by the wealthiest for generations for estate planning, minimizing taxes, preserving wealth, and increasing stability for their investments. Now you can do the same thing. In addition, you can build a plan to build an emergency fund, pay for college, fund a business, plan for retirement, and ultimately optimize your total financial picture. To find out more information, check us out at the banking link at nextlevelincome.com. Neil, welcome to the show.
Hey, great to be here, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. We've had some really great conversations over the past month, Neil. I've really enjoyed getting to know more about you, your business, and I'm super excited to share your story and what you do with our audience. Before we really get into the nitty gritty, kind of share with us a little bit more about your background. I mean, you have an amazing team you're working with now, so maybe you can kind of catch us up to where you are today.
Well, once upon a time, I like long walks on the beach. Let's get all that out of the way. I'll try not to say anything that my mother cares about. Let's get down to the stuff that's most interesting. Like a college dropout. People like to that, I think, at times. They think it's funny. I have a School of Hard Knocks education. Yeah, I wanted to learn about e-commerce in college. I went to college on a full-ride music scholarship and a work study. And so I thought I was going to be a musician, loved Miles Davis, jazz, went on classical, thought I was going to do that for my life. By the time I got into the 3rd year of that, I realized I was going to be living in a van down by the river. And I'm like, nah, this isn't going to fly. So I got into business management. The internet kicked off. I'm like, man, I want to learn how to make money. The internet's going to be something else. We were doing green inbox on the computer screens at that point. And so I went for the computer science and I was like, they're going to teach you Fortran and mainframe programming. And I'm like, oh, dude, no way. I'm not living on the green paper thing. I'm not doing that. Right. So a guy comes in, he's an adjunct professor and he is teaching and he's a consultant. And I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm starting to learn this HTML thing and active server pages, ASP. And I'm like, wow, what is that? And he's like, well, it's dynamic driven. It's going to be on the internet and all this stuff. And I'm like, teach me how to do that. So we can't do that here at college. So I'm like, I'm out of here. So I went and got a little gig making like $20 an hour as a consultant in near Kansas City. I had learned in the computer science lab how to set up and network these computers when they first came in. I taught myself, learned how to do it. Nobody knew how to do it at that point, right? So I gotten good enough that I got this little job and I was working inside of banks, basically going around and helping them network their computers and their printers and the little, all that other crap we used to have to do once upon a time. So I got pretty good at that. I started teaching myself HTML, active server, dynamic pages, started teaching myself programming the web, did get picked up as a consultant in Sprint Local, where I helped them build like a knowledge management platform and realized I had more of an aptitude for the business and the understanding of the technology, but the application of its business. And it's more of the creativity of my background was flowing into business and the jazz I love making this creation because nobody had done this before. And so I had this opportunity to create something and it was pretty successful. And because of that, I went and applied for this company called PCS. Sprint had just opened its mobile division in Kansas City, and I got hired like on the spot. I was like the 5,000th employee because they were just sucking employees everywhere and trying to hire people as fast as they could. And I'm like, great, cool, let's do that. So I went into there, got a job. We were running the whole 50,000 web page version of mobile division, the internal customer support thing. And it got like crazy. So they decided, let's build this knowledge management platform. I'm like, what is that? I have no idea. Like, what knowledge management? So I learned about tacit and implicit and learning and knowledge and latent semantic search engines and natural NLP language and all this stuff that had to go as a part of that, and very immersed into all of the business and the sciences behind all that. And got really good at it. I launched that project, got to be a part of the success of that, the first knowledge management that helped support Sprint as it grew to 80,000 employees by the time I left and 25,000 customer service reps. So it became a mega organization. And they needed more help and they needed to expand and stuff. So they hired IBM to come in, and IBM, it was a cross-project team. Long story short, the project was really great. One of the partners and I became friends. The cue here is networking is net worth at the end of the day. I love that.
That's gold right there.
Networking with these guys and getting to know and going to lunch and finding out what they were about and making friends and learning. And literally at the end of the day, I discovered one critical component, and that is it's who you know that gets you there, and it's what you know that keeps you there. So if I couldn't have figured that out, learned it, or adapted to it, I would have been kicked out and fired. I would have been removed, right? But I actually found that I could do it. And so IBM said, hey, come work for us. I'm like, great. The partner answered me. I went to Armonk on a handshake, and suddenly I'm in IBM. Again, no degree. So I felt like the dumbest guy in the room, which is what everybody wants to do. Everybody says, I want to be the dumbest in the room. Well, I literally was the dumbest guy in the room. I went to Double Docs, the MITs, the super guys, the Yale and the Harvard graduates, and all these people. I'm sitting in like the boardrooms of some of the large communications companies. At that point, I'd been in Verizon. I'd been in CenturyLink. I'd gone into the Thompson family companies. I'd been in Wall Street and sitting on the boardroom. And so we got to all of that and realized there was nowhere else to go. But I'd always been playing the little side hustle game. I had a little game server company running on the internet. We had thousands of customers who were basically doing VoIP communications so they could multiplayer their games. So I'm dating myself again, because you couldn't do the game and play and talk to each other unless you had cell phones. So we set up these little audio codecs on servers, and people could connect in groups of 10, 20, 50. And we had little paid per package, and then they would talk and network and do their multiplayer gaming, right? Long before games actually incorporated it into the actual game, which we all take for granted now. But it always gave me that entrepreneurial spirit. I always knew I was going to eventually kick out on my own. IBM says, hey, we're going to Argentina. Do you want to come? And I'm like, no, I don't want to go to Argentina. So they said, here's your early retirement. So in 2007, I left, started my own management consulting company, made IBM a client, got into the public sector as well, and some security clearances, got to go work at places like Boeing and do other things in the drone programs. And we got to work more in the knowledge management side and Cummins manufacturing, and got this really cool stuff when I was my own consultant. So they paid me a really handsome fee to do that, way more than they were paying me when I was an employee.
Funny how that works, isn't it?
Funny how that works. So there you go. Reinventing myself. I kept moving forward, right? And just kept filling holes where I could fill holes, literally. And always knew, again, to keep doing my own thing. And so I just kept expanding and adapting, got into wireline communications at a startup company in Oklahoma in the oil and gas fields. We were basically got patents on digital wireline communications, basically turning copper lines in the home or business into communications that could accept like gigabit transfers.
I've heard about that. Yeah, that's awesome.
One plugs for Sony, where you basically plug a television in and all your internet data and everything, or wherever you plug it in. It was really cool. And demand grid. So if you had a brownout happening in California, all the homes and businesses in a certain area would be demand elastic. So they would literally come down, things would shut off automatically, business shut off. It would avoid brownouts and blackouts. Super cool technology. No one's ever going to hear of it because that bombed and failed. And then, it bombed and failed. I put too much money. I found out my partners were cooking the books. One day I discovered, why are we having so much trouble? Where's the money going, et cetera? And then I discovered where it went. So then led into the reinvention of myself as I started to learn how to do mobile paid ads and mobile traffic ads. I got to be pretty successful at that, which kind of saved my bacon because I had to go bankrupt in that business. Had to indemnify myself, cancel out the business, clear out everything, and get absolved of all of that because of the investor money to it. So I got out of all that trouble because I wasn't involved in it, but what a mess. So I had to reinvent myself and start over again. And I did in affiliate marketing, got into lead generation and traffic generation and mobile. And we were uploading mobile spreadsheets of products into servers and just watching it go across the networks and seeing what came back. And I struck a little bit of gold on a mobile dating app out of South Africa. Never believed the South Africans would ever have so much fun dating. But apparently they were hot and dating in the mid 2000s. So
when my coach says, if you can sell sex, health, or how to get rich. You're going to make money.
Well, dating is kind of a combination of all those, isn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, that was kind of the great hybrid market. But I got into it well enough to help some companies be very successful, learn about Series A funding and how to fund companies and stuff. And so we had done that and did that some more and helped them do that. And realizing that while I was generating their traffic and leads, I should be generating my own product leads too. And it kind of dawned on me, and I need to be running my own products. Like I need to switch gears here and stop running other people's products or apps. And I need to start running all this traffic to my own. And thus began the brand era really of my e-com evolution. As we got going on that and learning about what people wanted, the right avatar, and what the numbers to really look like in order to make that profitable, especially on volume. A friend of mine one day posted on Facebook, hey, I sold something on Amazon FBA. And I'm like, what the heck is on FBA? Never heard of this, right? So I call him up and he's like, yeah, there's this thing called Fulfilled by Amazon. They literally ship the products, handle the customer support. You use their warehousing. It's a really cool thing. Nobody's doing it right now. You can jump right in and such and such and such. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to try this. So I signed up to their seller account and got going and just started looking for product arbitrage. This is how I originally started, just kind of like a little hustle, right?
Product arbitrage. Man, you're throwing out a lot of cool terms here today.
Buy low, sell high.
Yeah,
we were looking for deals where it was $1 a unit and we could turn around and flip it for $7. We got it for $5. We flipped it for $25. When we were using other people's brands to do that, who had already had established some traffic, a lot of corporations at this point, not individual sellers, were really involved in the early stages when it launched. And actually, it's another company that Amazon purchased in order to allow that infrastructure to occur. So FBA is actually a separate company from Amazon. So we learned basically that this filing system of Amazon is a giant search engine. At that point, Google was becoming big. They were taking over market share like crazy, but it was all information, ranking and SEO to get somebody to digest some information and then maybe go to one of your products or something or purchase something from once you reach a certain consumer level. Amazon kind of blew all that out of the water because their big filing system, this little engine, was all about producing products and purchases in 30 seconds or less. That's the model that Bezos set: buy all things to all people in 30 seconds or less. And I'm like, well, that's where the buyers are going to be. So let's just stay focused on that, right? So it turns it's a big search engine. It runs just like the engines we were building that I started my career on, the latent semantic knowledge-based learning engines. Is this engine, this filing system that runs all those products when you click in and you're looking at your reviews and you're at the surface level of your phone? There's a lot of technical crap happening behind all that. But at the end, it was just a big search engine. If you give it what it wants and you dance with it, it will reward you. You don't even necessarily have to have the best product, have to have the best product. But if you don't have the best product and you rank your product, customers will eventually find you and suck you, and you'll suck you down and you'll die. So there's a combination, of course, of ranking and providing a great brand. And then obviously longevity, profitability will follow. So we started to build brands about 2 years into that process, realizing that other people's brands, spending all that time and energy, was really going to be building somebody else another car, not us. So we got into brand building. And that's when things really took off and got to be fun, because we launched a product and another product, and we developed a system, a game plan we call the 5x5 game plan. And we started to deploying those into the brands, repeating that process weekly, quarterly, and looking at 90-day cash flow plans and turning it into a business, because we're business builders. And my partner I found right around that time, his name's Reed. He was also high up in a company he co-founded. He was the VP over a $100 million firm. And he had left that about the time I did. And he discovered Amazon around the same time. And I said, hey, you have a business, the knowledge, aptitude, logistics, and detail-oriented brain. Why don't I come in with my neuro ADHD brain and what kind of marketing and stuff I can put together, and you help me systematize this, and let's see what we can do. 8 years later, we're still together. We're two halves of the same coin, right? So he does things I don't, and I do things he doesn't, and we stay in our lane, and we actually do really well at it, which is cool.
It's awesome.
So we just kept launching those, man. Just kept launching.
Let's take a quick break, and then we're going to dive into like what you're doing today, because man, that is, I'm just thinking, and if you're listening and you're thinking the same as me, if Neil's the dumbest guy in the room, then there's some really smart people. And I work with
there's some really smart people out there.
Because I work with neurosurgeons most of my career, spine surgeons, neurosurgeons, ortho. I always thought I had this complex. I'm like, I'm not a very smart guy. People are like, oh, you're a pretty smart guy. And I'm like, I'm working with geniuses every day. It is a treat when you get to work with people like that.
Back and watch. Yeah,
absolutely. So a couple things before we jump in. You're talking about like building knowledge management systems. I just started to implement a system called Notion. Have you heard of this? Have you heard of it? The course I'm doing is built by a guy called August Bradley. He's basically talking about how to blend these knowledge management systems with you as a human so that ultimately you can access those. So we'll have to chat about that at some point in the future.
Yeah. Well, I mean, knowledge is so much component of how we learn, how we adapt, when we buy, when we choose certain things, whether we're drawn into the emotional component, whether we're using our right or left brain at the time we decide to purchase or buy or do anything, frankly. And so there's a lot of components of building in that. What's that implicit knowledge, that knowledge you ultimately understand without doubt. Tacit knowledge, it's the training of knowledge and learning of knowledge in your brain. And of course, there's different ways to adapt learning and audio and visual and other things to people's ability, not just to learn, but to actually purchase. If you apply it over to the side of e-com, we developed a process to basically know exactly what people want from the product we're giving them so that we get 30 to 50% conversion rates on our listings inside of Amazon every time we put a listing out there.
That's incredible.
So it's formula that we went through and learned how to adapt for every person who wants to buy in that system. So it's systematized. It's a formula. It doesn't change. It's math, right? And so what we do is by the numbers. It is not guessing. It's not emotional. It's not maybe this is going to work. It will work when you follow these steps. It literally just kind of by numbers.
Well, that's what's so cool about you and Reed. You guys are, like you said, you're two halves of the same coin, and you've been able to blend human behavior with spreadsheet algorithms, all this information that now we have access to. And the company that you do this with now is called, as we mentioned in the intro, Voltage, right?
Yeah,
so you're talking about your 5x5 game plan. I think that really kind of epitomizes this whole process, Neil.
It does.
So maybe we can talk a little bit about what that is and how that blends all this technology and psychology together.
Well, it gets down to one simple question, right? What the hell do I sell? It's the same one that everybody has.
What do you do? Yeah, what do you do now? You've done a lot.
What the hell do I sell?
Yeah.
Well, everybody has that when they get started, even people who are experts to some degree or people who are already selling in the marketplace. It's the same question I deal with, whether they're in the market and selling or they're brand new and got a golf course management degree or whatever and never sold anything online whatsoever. So at the end of the day, again, it's about process. It's about people. It's about the buying signals and the emotional aspects. So when you find a certain demographic, you just tie into that demographic. And then you go deeper into that, right? A lot of people think you go lateral. So if I need to move to more markets, more channels, what I'm saying is you don't. And that's where a lot of people fail. When you find a particular avatar you lock into, there are numbers that are going to flow and you're just going to keep piling into that. You're going to keep going deeper and deeper, deeper into that vertical. And so what I see so many times is people making mistakes of going too wide. Okay. What they think is if I don't do that, I'm losing opportunity. And what I'm actually saying is you're losing time, money, and energy if you do that. If you apply capital and aspects directly into answering that question, staying focused on who that avatar is and that person and doubling your understanding of them, you will double the revenue. So when you answer that question, it literally has a number of components that tie together with answering that question. It can't just be, well, hey, go sell an umbrella. Well, that doesn't really add up at the end of the day, because is it work in the numbers? All emotions aside, can I make it profitable? Can I pay for the rising logistics and shipping costs? Can I have people come in and help me automate components of it? Getting my freight charges in, my storage fees, ensuring I have capital to market, obviously purchasing the product. I got to consider all of these numbers in the business. And of course, paying taxes while also being profitable and making some money. So in answering that question, there's certain criteria that we go after at a high level right now, because I don't want to take a huge amount of your time today talking about it, but there are segments of this, and I'll give you a pro tip. It's usually women 27 plus. So if you're going to sell to the majority of
that's a good avatar.
On the internet, it's women 27 plus, right?
All right.
They run a lot of the purse strings, a lot of the money. It's the largest buying demographic on Amazon. It makes up the majority of purchases online. Women
I can attest to that. I got one of those in my household.
Absolutely. I got one too. And I'm raising 4 more. So we call it subscribe and spend in my house. Because we got to save money by not spending it. It's this whole concept. So at the end of that, you have to realize that there are people just like you who are buying things. And one of the simplest things I ask people to do is most of us are all Amazon consumers of some level, right? Go to your history.
And everything. Yeah.
Absolutely. Who is not these days? About 125 million Americans, right? So go to your last 90 days of order history. What you need to understand is 6 out of 10 of those, or 60% of the FBA sellers are third party, just like us. So if you look at those packages and you look at what you've purchased, you're going to find many of those are from third party sellers.
I buy a box of protein bars, and this is interesting because I started to figure this out. They're not coming from Amazon.
They're not coming from some Amazon. Other company. No, we're leveraging a simple little equation. Similarity plus familiarity equals trust. Take a brand into the market. I'm going to take a product into the market. I'm looking for similar products that are already selling in the market. I don't need to invent. I am an inventor and I have patents, but realized was innovation is literally where the money is made the fastest and can be the most scalable, okay, in the least amount of time, because typically an inventor has to do a whole lot of patent stuff and then get people to validate it and go this direction. But innovators see ideas and see opportunity and similarity already in the market and then just innovate little changes to that, creating a familiarity of that product. I'll give you an example, okay? So we're going a little by the numbers in terms of the equation a minute ago. We'll come back to that, but we call this don't marry your product, buy somebody else's girlfriend instead. So there are plenty of products in the market that you can steal. It's a joke.
Happily.
Yeah. So we're not talking about cheating or cheating on products, not people, just to be very clear. So these products that are in there, right? They're already selling, there are already brands there. You don't have to guess. You have to pull the data together. Once you pull the data together, it's a data-driven decision at the end of the day. If I know that I'm going to make profitable, if I know where my competitors are and I know what their profit estimations are and the amount of sales they're making, then I'm going to come in and say, really simply, can I beat them on profit? Can I buy up their customers? And how long will it take me to do it?
I like the sound of that.
Well, yeah, because I think people go in with a shotgun approach thinking, well, if I just throw everything at the wall, something will stick, right? And there's an analogy that just popped in my head. My dad gave me. I'm not going to tell you I had this thing sticking to the wall. Never side tangent. So yeah. So really what we're looking at is a concept of a specific number. We're looking at products that make us more than $12 profit per unit, preferably more than 20 to 30. My business builders and we average more than $35 in profit per unit. That is after land costs, marketing, logistics, shipping, freight, taxes, all of the business. We actually put that much in our pocket for every unit sold because that's all that really matters at the end of the day. Sure, I can tell you 7 and 8 figures and that's real sexy. But I know guys who are doing 7 figures who are spending just under 7 figures a year to make it work. That's not profitable. It makes sense when your net margins are above 15%, much better when they're above 18 to 20. And when done correctly, our builders are always shooting for 18 to 20% net margin across their entire business. So in very simple terms, a profitable product makes a profitable brand, profitable business. But we don't have to guess. Remember the equation again, the similarity plus familiarity equals trust. Amazon's your trust. Products are already selling that are in there. Find similar products that are familiar to you or in your purchased history already from the last 90 days. And then start to ask questions about simple first level analysis questions. Okay. Could this product be profitable? If it's more than $50 to $300, it's probably profitable. Okay. If it's $25 or less, it's not very profitable for the seller. After they add their costs and fees and everything else, they might be making $2 to $3 max. And in many cases, they're making $1, right?
Yeah.
Because once they get their marketing and high competition and you get the bestseller badge, there's a big race to the bottom pricing problem that people face. We don't play in that.
Interesting.
We play with the people. And let me give you this simple analogy to kind of wrap that up. When I go and have an abscess tooth and I want to go to the doctor and I'm looking for the dentist who's going to fix my problem, okay? There are people who will go and say, hey, can I get in? And he's going to say, yeah, sure. And I'll get you in an hour. It'll be $300. They're going to say, oh, okay. Is that what you can do? He's going to say, well, I could do it in 10 minutes for $500. Oh, no, I can't pay that much. Can't pay that. So the people who are at $300 in 1 hour are typically people who are selling $10, $20 to $30 products in Amazon. What I want is the 10-minute solution to pay $500. And many people do too. In fact, millions of people will pay that, okay? Because they want that solution. They want it solved. They don't want the pain anymore. They don't want the headaches. They want it done, okay? So we're at a different level of selling in the marketplace, which has given us a different level of profitability, longevity, sustainability, and actual business building with profits. And that's very, very important, right?
So how have you systematized that? So you figure out what these products are. They're not even your own products.
Nope.
You figure out who the customers are.
Correct.
How do you systematize that whole process after that, Neil?
So literally it's a process of what we call our green light spreadsheet. So as we go through and we look at those numbers, we're going to fill out a...
Is that from Matthew McConaughey?
Yeah, no, not that spreadsheet.
Not that green lights?
No, not that one. It's literally a sheet that goes in and looks at 3 components of the business for that unit. It is profit percentage, profit ROI, and profit per unit. When those go literally green, you should sell that product. Once you validate with your sourcing agents and manufacturing that you can hold the price point, you should sell that product. It's really not more complicated than that. Finding those products is a little bit of a process. Virtual assistants can be taught to go use data tools, data mining tools. Some of you may have heard of these, maybe not. There's things like Helium 10, there's Jungle Scout, there's Phoenix from Six Leaf, and they go and they data mine that and show you that data that you're looking for your competition. So you can gain, an 80% understanding of that product and estimated sales and profitability. and how you're going to compete with them in the marketplace, right? Remember, again, revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, and cash flow is king. So we're going to make sure that we look at the profit line so that we have great cash flow. It's all that matters. If I can get better profit and cash flow than my competitors, I'll go to market against them, because now I know it's just a matter of time for me to up all their customers. If they have $10 in profit and I can come in with 20, I'll spend $19 of that buying up all their customers until my average costs come down. It took me 30, 60, 90 days to do it. And I dominate the market and become the lead player. Why? Because my average order value, which is referred to the amount a person buy of my product in a certain amount of time, will go through the roof. They'll buy that first product, but then they'll also buy a second and third product at full profit. We can track those metrics, right?
Interesting.
So I can go in and just
start tying the products in together.
Start tying the products together. So the goal then is that 5x5 you mentioned with that game plan is to go in and systematize the product research component, the sourcing agent component, which we have all these sourcing agents working for us now, to validate those sheets and then literally just produce a project launch cost that we either say yay or nay or reorder and launch that one, literally, because the process is just going through that plan. The goal of putting 5 products in the market inside of your brand for a couple of different reasons. One, you need more than that to lower your risk. 5 should just be the beginning amount of SKU you have in the marketplace. It lowers your risk as you put more in the marketplace. Okay. It's also more products making more money at the end of the day. Yeah. And Amazon actually rewards brands, and they're rewarding a lot more. In fact, they just killed $15.4 billion in revenue. You can go look this up online, from over 50,000 sellers in the Chinese side that they moved out of the system to get rid of fraud and other things. And then they moved out about another 200,000 who were doing buyer networks, fake reviews. They had secondary accounts. They were just jacking and messing with the system. It took down about 15 billion in revenue to clear that out. So there are huge opportunities now that were not there just months ago.
How about that?
Yeah, huge opportunities, things opening up, just incredible. To put those products into brands, because Amazon is wanting you to be brand driven, and it's starting to kick everybody out who is not playing by brand rules, who is not brand trademarked, who isn't brand registered in the system.
It's nice to hear.
Yep. But when you're doing this, they give you things like sponsored brand advertising, sponsored brands. They could even tie you into the marketing. You could get in their prime email blasts. They can even advertise you on ESPN. We've had our product show up there. You can do very shortly email blasts to your customer. Couldn't do before. Retargeting options and targeting options, brands that weren't there before. So they're becoming very brand centric, which is cool. And it's finally a great way to see that evolve. So again, you asked about the 5. It literally just is a component of ensuring that you have a systematized amount of products that are going in. The other 5 in that 5x5 is that each of those are just averaging 5 sales a day across all of them. Why? Because with the profit margins we're talking about, you could have $100,000 in profit a year when you extrapolate those numbers. Okay.
So just 5 products equals 100,000 in profit a year.
Just 5 products.
And that's to the business owner. Wow.
Profit to the business owner, right? So that's how you make 100,000 a year in this business. So in the process of extrapolating that and systematizing it and going quarter by quarter, product launches, continuing to adapt your brand. The example here would be I sell a higher end bike seat. I don't do the cheap Chinese 29, hurt your butt seat. I'm doing the gel padded, the hole in the middle, don't crunch and munch your goodies seat that costs you $69. And it's the stuff I'm going to ride up the back of Pike with, right? But then once I get you to buy that, I'm going to sell you the high-end panniers and maybe the $250 version of those, right? For protecting
You're talking to the right guy. That I've ridden a lot of miles in my life.
You say, right? The right calipers, the right brakes. You got to have the better lights. You want the right hand grips. You're going to get the right gloves. You're going to get the right gear. All of a sudden, your order value is going through the roof for me. And my brand is continuing to put products in front of you that you like, right? And you're coming back and buying more of those products you like. And you're getting all the other components that go with it. So that's that vertical I talked about a minute ago, right? Lock into that vertical and just keep feeding that vertical more and more of your brand. People will come back in a quarter or come back in less than 90 days and buy again. You can even have them on subscribe and save. So they'll be purchasing regularly from you. And that builds that continuity into the business with that profit, right? And that cash flow, which is really king. So there's a lot to unpack and all that. There's a lot of things I didn't say, which some people are like, didn't he say this? Like, I know there's there's other things in there, including like how to even get people to see your products in the system. We'll maybe have to unpack that later, but Amazon's a river, but it's also a tree. And that kind of goes back to that knowledge management component, that search engine, that filing system they're running, of how some products are more relevant and why they show frequently bought, and how do I actually get customers to see them and rank them correctly. And that's all kind of tied into the technical component of that, but it's all keyword driven. So you're aware it's all keyword driven. which means people are very specific about what they're looking for. Remember, all things to all people in 30 seconds or less. And when you lock into some of those great keywords, there's a lot of profit behind them.
So everything you said, I'm sure people are listening. I'm sure people's heads are spinning like, well, this sounds great, but like, what does that mean for me? And the day we spoke, I was in the middle of reading a book. It's called Idea to Execution. And in that book, they talk about optimize, automate, and outsource. And I'm a big systems guy. I always try to figure out, my son even said, he's like, Dad, you're always trying to figure out how to make things more efficient. I was like, well, optimize, son. And then I'm always looking for systems. And Neil, your company has actually put together this really optimize, automate, and outsource to help people build these businesses. Is that right?
Yeah, we have a thing called Amazon Account Management Services, VAMS, as we refer to it. And it's the ability to gain operational independence from your business before you exit it. We refer to it as the platinum principle. You may have heard of the golden parachute in the corporate world, and that is you do all your years and you bail out, get your jet, your house, and go off.
65, yay.
Yeah, and you're gone and great, but not everybody can do that. With the principle, it gives everybody the opportunity to create a business that is worth more in the end when you sell it than at any time during the business building phase. So when we build great foundations of business, and then we put great brands on top of them that are profitable, and it creates a whole profitable business that can actually be exited. It's an exit play. It's a very good monetary play for capital, time, and money you're putting into a business. It's actually worth something. So we have the ability to automate those for individuals who come and be business builders with us. We give them the capability of creating operational independence before they exit, which is our takes over the full account management, making it a completely done for you solution. Once that brand is up and running, we know the upside potential of that business. We know the exit potential. We know that in 18 to 24 months, that business could be worth 3x to 4x its revenues, its profits. So we know that market is really taking this by the horn. In fact, in the last 18 months, $6 billion in capital has been deployed to buying Amazon FBA channel. It's one of the greatest amounts of money I've seen in the last 20 years being deployed into one area this fast.
And you've seen some pretty big areas sell.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Internet.
It's going like gas. Crazy. Yeah. It's going like, this is like a little bit of the tech bubble, right? The difference is it's a commodity-based business because you're actually leveraging into inventory, which is a physical asset, but you're using Amazon's platform and infrastructure, which is a bit virtual because it's virtual real estate in their platform that you're gaining control of physical inventory. So it's a cool little bit of hybrid going on there, right? Unlike a traditional brick and mortar retail store. So it gives you that opportunity to create that. And as a buyer of these companies, as we set this up to bring in home offices and other brokerages and people who are interested in buying these companies, we help our business leverage those relationships to exit. So they have a smooth transitional path from start to exit, literally. We can help them. So
you help business builders figure out the products, build the business behind it,
correct,
develop the strategy to exit, and then actually provide
the pre-exit, which is a little bit of the reverse of the way most people would see an exit. You typically would build it up. You would have some components of automation and operational independence, and then you go to the exit, at which point you're going to try to reverse yourself out of the company. I got 70% now, 30% in the next 5 years kind of thing. What we're doing of inverting that, we're innovating against it, meaning that we are exiting the people from the business, creating all of that operational component and literally handing it to an investor and saying, here, it's independent. Here's its profits. You want to take it on. Here's who's going to manage it. Do you want to buy this company? And it literally is for them to just purchase.
So Neil, what's the best way for people to find out about your business if they want to get involved? What's it called? How does this work? How do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, in simple terms, you can go to voltagedm.com. That's VOLTAGEDM, voltagedigitalmedia.com. You could link it if you want. Go check out my LinkedIn if you want to determine if I'm serious or not. You'll see my partners are. I didn't mention Reed is one of my long-term partners, good friend of mine, and who has come into the business in the last year. Kevin Harrington, you might know him from the Shark Tank and as seen on TV. He's a partner in our company as well and helping to coach and mentor people. So we got a really strong team of support. He's brought his son in, who's very good and handles a lot of his operations. Also have Brandon, who's a 2-time Emmy Award-winning videographer for a Success in the City series that he's doing right now, where he goes around and interviews people in the cities. It's a very cool team, very good group of people, very, very smart. Again, dumbest guy in the whole room of super smart people, which is cool. So I'm enjoying that because these guys are really good. But if you're interested, you can check out a free video. It goes a little more in depth. It's almost like a training video. It's just 90 minutes where I go in and kind of break this all down a lot more. And that's free to watch. You can sign up on the site. And then when people are interested in talking to me, they just text me. Literally, I make it really simple. I'm only looking for a few people. This is not for everybody. It's for those who are really wanting to build businesses first, and they're interested in e-com, and they're thinking, hey, how to deploy cash in a different way? Maybe I'm into infinite banking, or I'm doing multi-tenant real estate, or I own franchises in other ways, and I'm looking to open up different deploy capital that at some point I don't have to run every component of the business, right? And that's kind of how we've structured this. You guys can go check that out. And definitely, yeah. Look, my last name is TWA. If you Google me, you're going to find me in the former TWA Airlines.
That's what I remember.
On one of the social networks.
And we will link all this in the show notes. Sure. And then, Neil, we're going to figure out a way to bring you back here.
Excellent.
And look at getting some more information out there to the audience. So thank you so much for everything you provided today. We appreciate everything you share with the audience. Bringing a different business idea than anybody else that's been on the show so far. Neil Twa, thank you so much.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate you having me on, man.
Hey, Chris here again. I hope you found this episode valuable. Now, I have one more thing to gift you. We have a page for my coaching clients where you can get a free copy of my book, as well as much more from previous guests on the show. Just check out nextlevelincome.com/coaching to get a free copy of my book, audiobook, and much more. I'll send you a copy of my book and cover all the shipping costs as a thank you for listening to the podcast. Also, please like, share, and take just 90 seconds to give us a rating on Apple Podcasts.